There's so much, it's very complex. And there's no one reason, Mike. It's so individual.
Yeah.
I can tell you some of the few things I've noticed. So you feel like if you give up your grief, you're forgetting them.
Welcome to the Trueman Podcast. So today, I want to touch base on a subject that we've touched about on before, which is suicide. So back on episode 43, I had speaker author Frank King on, and we did an episode entitled Stand Up for Suicide Prevention. And today, I want to talk about the issue of mental health and suicide from a little bit different perspective. So today's guest is Michelle Cleveland, and I ran into Michelle at the National Speakers Association of Georgia. There's your shout out, NSA. And we had a great conversation about her life body of work. And I think this is it's important to address her calling for people who may be going through a similar situation. And maybe, just maybe, we can provide an ounce of help to bring awareness to the challenge of suicide. So welcome to the podcast, Michelle Cleveland. Now, Michelle was born in Prague, but she grew up in the U.S. and she's traveled all over, and she's traveling today. She took time to stop on her little motorcycle trip, and she's currently using Chick-fil-A's Wi-Fi. So today's show, sponsored by Chick-fil-A, of course. So just don't tell corporate downtown Atlanta, okay? In 2016, Michelle experienced a significant life event that led her to researching resiliency. Now, this experience and her subsequent discovery of what helps us be resilient was the genesis of her company, NTC LifeWorks, dedicated to the memory of her sons, Nicholas and Thomas. The vision is to support suicide awareness. So, Michelle, welcome to the Trueman Podcast.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'm really honored to be on here. And it's very kind of you to help me share what I'm doing and spread the word about Project 24/7 too.
Yeah, well, listen, there seems to be a lot of talk about suicide. I just don't see a lot of action behind it. And I can only imagine that the last thing on your mind 10 years ago or so was that you would be dedicating your life mission to suicide awareness. But here we are. So talk about what has led you to where you are today and the mission that you've taken on.
Well, it's a very winding road to get to where I'm at now. I lost the two children in 2016. That's what happened. My youngest son, Thomas, um, took his own life in the 7th of March in 2016. And then my oldest of three boys, Nicholas, followed suit because he was already very fragile. He had been in rehab and wash, rinse, repeat that.
Yeah.
And he was on the upswing, but losing his brother kind of put him over the edge again. And so we lost him on the 3rd of April. His attempt was on the 1st of April, and we finally lost him on the 3rd. So less than 30 days, I lost two of my four children. My middle son, Rustin, is still doing well now. And my daughter, who was the youngest of the four, the princess, she's 22 now, but she was 15, a freshman in high school. I
Yeah.
spent many nights and days on suicide watch with her because the immediate family and close friends of those who we lose to suicide are the highest risk group. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know
And
that.
a lot of talk
I would have
about
suspected it.
Mhm.
Why is that exactly? I mean, I can guess,
It
but
makes it possible. It
ah,
makes it an option. And when you fall into the pit after losing somebody, you kind of sort of want to follow them, I think.
mm,
You miss them so much. At
that's
least that was
really,
my experience.
yeah, that is that's really heavy.
Um, but you were talking about how there's a lot of lip service to suicide awareness and mental health, especially during the pandemic. Suicide figures are a year and a half to 2 years behind the most recent figures we just got for 2021. There has been a 10% increase in suicides and attempts since 2019. In 2 years, there was a 10% increase. That's sad. That's what the lockdowns did to us.
Yeah,
The lockdowns increased suicide by 10%.
It's sad, but it's not surprising. You know,
Not
and
at all.
the reason I say that is, and you know this better than I do. A lot of times, when we talk about suicide, we're talking about isolation and how people isolate themselves. And the interesting part about COVID was, we were asked to isolate. Yes, one could debate the merits of it in terms of health reasons, but when people that have mental health issues or are asked to isolate, well, now we've taken things to a whole other level. So these statistics, they're not surprising at all.
Yeah. But anyway, going back to how I got to where I'm at.
Yeah.
Having a little detour there. So I went back to work and people would tell me, "Oh, you're so strong. Oh, you're such an inspiration. You're doing so well." And I didn't think I was doing that well. I call it the faucets. So I'd be doing whatever and the faucets would just randomly turn on. I'd start crying. And I was talking to my sister on the phone one day and she said, "Oh, you're crying." I said, "Oh, that's okay. Wipe and go, wipe and go." If I stopped every time I started to cry, I'd never get anything done. But I found that all these people were telling me I was such a wonderful inspiration. I thought, well, what's the difference between me keeping going, getting the mortgage paid and showing up at work? What's the difference between me continuing to function at some level and those mothers who disappear? They go to bed, pull the sheets over their head, and we never see them again. We lose them or worse, right? So what was the difference? And I started digging in and I found that there were three things that separated me and those mothers who didn't make it. And the first, most important, is people. You got to have your people. You know that joke about, oh, if you got arrested, who would be sitting next to you? And it would be that person who you can really trust.
Yeah.
And who you can bare your soul to. So here's just a quick story to illustrate what I mean about people. Not long after I'd gone back to work, I drove back home and I got to the driveway and I got one foot out of the car and I froze. I couldn't move. Not one more step. I was stuck. And my husband was up in the garage and he saw me sitting there and he thought, I wonder what's wrong after a few minutes. And he came down and he got me out of the car and I couldn't make it any farther than the garage. He sat me in a folding chair in the garage and I was babbling, or so he thought. I had regressed to my mother tongue. I'd regressed to Czech.
Wow.
And he realized it after a while and he got on the phone. He called one of my people. He called Peter, who's a general contractor. He dropped everything, left the job site, said, "Guys, I got to go." And he came to me and knelt on the ground in front of me, holding my hands for an hour, speaking to me in Czech until I could speak English again, until I kind of came out of it. So that's your people, right? Do you have people like that? But more importantly, do you have people that you are their people? And I found that's really the linchpin. You hear all the time about people who lose all their friends, right? When things like this happen. Well, it's that feeling of impotence. They want to help, but they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't know what to do, right? So it's important that you be the one that feels that. So you understand that when you need help, even if you don't know what you need, just call out to your friends and say, "Just be with me," or "Just listen to me," right?
Yeah.
"I don't know what I need. I need something. Just be with me right now."
That's a
So you
really
need those
good
people in
point.
your life, and you need
that
to understand that by telling them what you need, and reaching out to them, you're helping them. You have to assume that they really do want to help you because they're your friends. Of course they do. But they go away because they don't know how to help. Not all of them, some of them do disappear because it's a scary situation, that suicide thing, right?
Well, you
And
bring
then
up
the
a
second
really
thing,
you bring up a
yeah,
really good point though, and I think it's something to touch on. And what I was picking up from that was that, we all find ourselves in situations where maybe we've lost a loved one or something, and it's hard to find the words. It's hard to find the
mhm,
words. You don't know how to react. Um, but what I hear you saying is lead the way. Don't help them know how to help you. Kind of direct them a little bit. Give them a little direction in that on what you need in that moment.
yeah, give them grace.
Yeah.
And if you're the person and you don't know what to say that. I feel so bad. I don't know what to say, but I want to let you know I'm here for you.
Yeah.
That works, right?
Yeah. Well, we just
So
want to
just
be
reach
seen, and
out.
we just want to be seen and heard, and we all want that. And so
Yeah,
I think that's an important thing to communicate. So you were gonna
yeah.
tell us what the number two was here.
Number two. Number two is you got to know how to find peace.
Mm,
When terrible things happen, you're in a pressure cooker, you're in a bubble of that negativity. You got to find a way to take a respite from the stress level. Find peace. For me, I get on my motorcycle, and that's where I am now. That's why I'm wearing Under Armour and I look like I'm an athlete because I'm out on my motorcycle. That's my happy place. When I'm in traffic, I've got a 360 head on a swivel going on, and
mhm.
that's kind of like meditation. You have to be present. If you're not present, you're dead. Somebody's going to hit you because you got to pay attention. You're invisible and you have to act accordingly. So it's like a Zen thing. You gotta be in the moment. It's like meditation, right? But then when I'm out in the countryside, I can just let go and be present in nature. All the smells of
Yeah.
flowers and blooming trees and chicken coop and everything.
How,
So you're really present,
yeah.
but you can also cry and scream, and the neighbors aren't going to call the police. So, you can just be with all your emotions freely, and that's very helpful. So that's how I find peace on my motorcycle.
How do you encourage people? Because a lot of people have a hard time stopping to find that peace. They just keep going. Like, I'm just gonna go, go, go. I'm gonna fight my way through this. And how do how do
hmm
you encourage people to find that peace?
I tell them, like Stephen Covey talks about sharpening your saw. If you don't stop to take care of you, who's going to take care of everybody else when you burn out? You're also much more effective
Yeah.
if you take that break and come back at it fresh. I worked with young entrepreneurs for many years, mentoring them and training them in efficiency. A lot of people call it time management, but it's not about scheduling, it's about working efficiently.
It
And
is.
that's one of the
Yeah.
things, right? To
Yeah.
be efficient, you have to work at your peak. And if you just push through, push through, push through, you're not at your peak. So to be the most effective, get the most done the most quickly, pause.
Mm.
That's how you get done more quickly. If you pause, take the time, and in life, take the time to step back and find peace, lower your stress level, get a new perspective, be present. Yoga, walking the dog, prayer. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Find how you find peace.
It's so
And
funny
then,
because before we hopped on the podcast, I was telling you about a situation I had. Now, I am not tech. I am not Mr. Tech at all. And when something goes sideways, I'm telling you, my eyes will pop out of my head. And so I had a situation, and quite seriously, what I did, I went and I did some breathing exercises for about 5 minutes, and we've had a lot of work
Mhm.
going on at the house. And I seriously, I
Yeah.
went down in the basement, I grabbed some artwork that,
Mhm.
I was thinking about, where would this fit in the house? And I just kind of tooled around with that for a little while. And, before you know it, I'd actually calmed down because my mind was completely off what was bothering me. And, I
Mhm.
was dealing with like, oh, this is such a beautiful piece. It would fit good on this wall. And,
Yeah.
you know, that has taken a lot of practice for me, by the way, because I used to
Oh,
just
yeah.
sit and spin on this stuff. And so I'm a big proponent of finding ways to pause, hit the stop button, and
Yep.
just distract yourself. That's exactly what I did because I knew I needed to be at my best for you
Mhm. And for your audience.
and for my audience. Yes, yes.
Yes, all the more people that are much more important than me. And then the third piece of the puzzle, if you will, third piece of the equation, or the third spoke that keeps the wheel rolling, is purpose. You
Mm,
gotta have purpose. You gotta know why. What's your why, right? Simon
yep,
Sinek, what's your why?
yep.
And if you know why you're here, why you get up every morning, that is what pulls you through the day. Think Mothers Against Drunk Driving, all of those in memorial of scholarships and things, right?
Yeah.
That's people in loss who found purpose. But more than that, I think it's important to have purpose to get you up in the morning
Mm,
because when you're surviving a crisis like I did, you need a reason to get up. Now, there's also a bit of a distinction I'd like to make here. There's something that gets you up to go every day, which for me is suicide prevention, but there's also wanting to keep living.
yeah.
Those are two very separate things. And so when um I say I took too much it all, F it all,
Beep.
bleep. Last September, I sold my house. I sold pretty much everything else, put a few things in storage, and took off on my motorcycle because, like Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, who just got on his motorcycle one day and came back a year later, he didn't even lock the door on the house. He was just going for a little ride. So it was a journey of healing. And I find I needed to go live in my happy place. I
Yeah.
just needed to let go. I could not do anything else but just fix me and figure out how to want to keep living. And Mike, one of the things that I do is I interview people for my YouTube channel and my Instagram and TikTok. I interview them asking them this simple question: why do you want to keep living?
Mm.
You'd be amazed at the answers that I'm getting. And I figured I'd ask other people because maybe they could help me figure it out.
Well, what's the what do people tell you?
Oh my goodness. The first one that's out there on my Instagram and TikTok actually is um, a victim of the Las Vegas mass shooting. She and her husband, I met them in the Buc-ee's parking lot of all places,
So
and
you
she
don't know.
lived,
This is just random. This is it completely random.
yeah,
Okay. Wow.
uh-huh. And I just ran into them, and they live for others. They live for those who can't. That was the biggest thing.
Wow.
And I got from them the joy that they live in. And they talked about how every day they look for at least one thing to be grateful for, one piece of joy. And I thought that was very important. Another interview, the gentleman talked about we are like trees. And I thought that analogy goes way big, way big.
Yeah.
We can bring shade to other people.
Mm.
Our good works bear fruit, right? Fruit bearing trees.
Yeah.
Anyway, so many ways that we are like trees, the way we impact people. But again, in a selfish way, I have a purpose while I have to stay here. But I found myself sometimes when things are tough, God, haven't I suffered enough? When are you going to let me go? You know,
Yeah.
when the days are tough. But all of these answers that I keep getting are about what's in it for them. And I get that there is gratification in doing good works and helping other people. And I feel so blessed that I'm helping other people. And that's amazing that hopefully I'm saving lives with what I'm doing, sharing Project 24/7 and getting the word out about the new National Suicide Hotline number 988. It's now nationwide as of August.
Hmm.
So I'm doing good work. I'm doing important work. It still doesn't help me feel better on the very basic. My boys are dead. They're not coming back. I
Yeah.
miss them. And it hurts, but I'm I'm shifting slowly. I'm feeling more connected as I talk to these people. So it's really helping me. And I hope when I'm sharing these interviews on social media that it's helping other people too.
Oh, I have no doubt it is. Such a profound way to go about it. So you're you're out traveling the country collecting these
Mhm.
interviews on your
Yep.
motorcycle, which is totally epic. T- Talk about that. I mean, how do you decide where you're going to go or what you're going to do, or do you just hop on the bike and go? I'm just going. How do you decide this?
It's a little combination of all of that. Some is planned, some's not. Sometimes I'm in the middle of going one way and I think, yeah, I want to go the other way. And sometimes I think I'm going to stop somewhere and I end up stopping somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm just totally flying by the seat of my pants sometimes. But other times I have a destination. So my goal this year is to see 20 people I have not seen that I miss. So people like a good friend from high school that I taught to shoot. I coached him shooting, and we started a shooting club for school. A girlfriend that when we were stationed in North Carolina, she was house sitting her brother's house next door, and her little girl was the same age as my oldest son. They were toddlers at the time. I haven't seen her in 29 years, maybe. It's been a long time. I saw my cousin last year out in Los Angeles that I hadn't seen in 38 years. I saw my other cousin from the other side of the family who I hadn't seen in 40 years. So my
Yeah.
goal this year is to meet up with 20 of those gems in my life that we always have those people we say, "Oh, we need to get together." And we never do.
Yep. Yep.
So
We all
20 of
have
those
that.
people is my goal.
How is that helping you heal?
How is that helping me heal? A lot of thought time on my motorcycle.
Mm,
Some of it is talking to those people who are precious in my life about old
yeah.
memories, reliving some of the past, good and bad, talking about the boys,
Yeah.
talking about Rustin and Natalie, my two children who are still alive, and those kinds of reconnections with life. I guess becoming more connected with
Yeah.
more of my life. So many of us just get into work, 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 and oh, there's life. Work, 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 and oh, there's life. But all of it is life, and really reconnecting with who I am, who they are, um, the human connection. There we go.
Yeah. No,
And
that is so powerful. It is so awesome because I feel like that we've misplaced this human connection in so many ways, but primarily because like for example, nobody sends Christmas cards out anymore. Why would you? You're all connected on Facebook all the time. And so, but I just, yeah, it's a connection because, I've got family across the country and we get to see what's going on immediately, but it's really not the ultimate connection in the way that you're talking about. I mean, just really eyeball to eyeball with people. There's
Mhm.
no way to mistake that those, you know, intimate relationships that we get to have with people when we're in the same room together are far different than
Hmm.
what we see
Yeah.
on
And
Facebook.
with what I'm doing, it's a lot more than just popping in for a cup of coffee. I stayed with my girlfriend Retta for a whole week in Colorado Springs. We really had some intense girl time and
Yeah.
some really deep conversations. We really, on all those levels, reconnected. It wasn't just let's get together for a bit.
And what a beautiful
So
part of
that's really what I'm doing.
yeah.
Really getting into the weeds and
What a beautiful
connecting.
part of the country to be riding in, by the way, the Rocky Mountains for sure. So tell everybody, I mean, listen, if they don't have a motorbike or a desire to hop on one like you know, what would you encourage them to do to find this peace, keep this hope alive, keep the memory alive? I think that's what it's about, that
Yeah,
you
some of
know,
it, very much. Yeah.
yeah. How would you encourage these folks that may be going
Well,
through
first of
something
all, I'd
similar?
say they need to take the basic motorcycle riding course from the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, and then they need to go shopping for a motorcycle.
Wow.
However, I know that's not practical for everybody.
Yeah.
So, yes, I believe everybody should have a motorcycle, but there are some people who it's not suitable for, and some people just, it's not for everybody, really, honestly.
Yeah.
Find how can you find peace? And it's so individual. There's no recipe. Try something. Think back. When did I feel at peace? And if never, you need to try something new. Try something different.
Yeah.
Try something you've never tried. There's plenty of options, plenty of suggestions out there. Just, start trying them. And don't just try once. For example, with yoga, give it at least a good 3, 4 tries because it's awkward to start with.
Yeah.
And you got to get over the awkwardness first to see if it really is a good thing for you. Go walking, go out in nature, take up hiking, play golf. Ooh, grown up marble. But anyway,
Oh,
some people
come
like
on.
golf. Some people like golf.
That's my thing. That's my jam right there.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's your jam. So, do you like walking in the park? That's mostly what golf
Oh,
is, right?
absolutely.
Taking a
Listen,
nice walk and chatting with your friends, right?
I absolutely encourage getting out in nature. And
Hmm.
listen, I think we're built for it. And there's a reason behind that. After all,
Yeah.
Adam and Eve were created in a garden. So it's
Hmm.
in our DNA to want to get outside. And when you get outside, what you can
Yeah.
really do, and I know you will appreciate this statement, is enjoy God's beauty because it is everywhere. It's in everything. And
Hmm.
so, the opportunity to hit the open road, I think is essential. In fact, some of the more meaningful conversations I've had with
Hmm.
people in the last 4 or 5 years were on some of the road trips that I went
Yep.
on with some of the guys I'm associated with. Because when you're
Yeah.
trapped in a car, I mean, we weren't on a motorcycle.
Ah,
When you're trapped in a car,
ah,
you
you got
know,
a captive audience there.
yeah, I say that affectionately, but when you're trapped in a car,
Yeah.
and you're having purposeful and intentional conversation, you can really learn from each other and grow. And that's just part of the community aspect that
Mhm.
I think that you're really talking about today. Be in community,
Yeah,
be in relationship.
very much so. Very much so. And I think it's important to remember to smile. That's one of the things we were robbed of, and some people still are robbed of, right? The first thing they do when they tell you to lift your mood is they tell you smile at someone, right?
Yeah.
We haven't been able to smile at people for years. So drop your mask and smile,
Yeah.
and
In
then put it
fact,
back up real quick.
I mean, the first question when you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, there's a lot of people that are hearing that and
Hmm.
they've gone through something similar and they just
Hmm.
can't find the smile. Or maybe,
Hmm.
is it because they just They don't want to find the smile. Is it because, I mean, you've been through this. I don't even know what question to ask. I mean, is it just
Yeah.
they don't want to move on from it?
There's so much. Suicide is a messy kind of
Oh,
grief.
yeah.
There's so much. It's very complex. And there's no one reason. Mike, it's so individual.
Yeah.
I can tell you some of the few things I've noticed. So you feel like if you give up your grief, you're forgetting them.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And you don't want to forget them. You want to hold them, right? You want to hold them close. For years, when my head hit the pillow,
Mm-hmm.
I would say these words: "Good night, world. Good night, boys. Watch over your siblings."
Wow.
And I finally got to the point that I don't say goodnight to them every night.
But they hear it every night. Yeah.
And there go the faucets. You know, I call it the faucets because they just turn on randomly, all on their own, have nothing to do with me. And I was talking to my sister once, not long after we lost the boys, and my sister said, "Oh, you're crying." And I said, "Oh, don't, just ignore it, because if I stopped every time I started crying, I'd never get anything done. So
Yeah.
just ignore it. I just keep going. Just wipe and go is what I call it. Wipe and go."
So talk about what you're doing now so we can get a feel of
Yeah,
what you're
here.
doing and how we can support you.
So project247.org. Number one, you see on the big outside is the National Suicide Hotline is now 988.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to look for that big ass long number anymore. And then the other thing is Project 24/7. You see the address project247.org. If you can put that in the program notes, I'd appreciate it, Mike.
Absolutely,
It's
we will.
the word, the number, and the word for those who are just listening to audio. Word, number, word, project number 24 word 7.org. And it's instructions on how to set up a group on your phone, or explains why you should set up a group on your phone. And when your phone is locked and there's an emergency, the emergency responders can go to your phone and click
Right.
emergency call, right?
Right.
And it pops up a list of all of those contacts that you want them to reach out to in case of emergency, right? So who do you reach out to when there's an emergency? You have to go scrolling through to find numbers, right?
That's
When you're
right.
depressed, if you make it as far as scrolling through those contacts, you're going to make excuses not to call them. "Oh, it's too late at night. Oh, that guy said call him, but I don't know him that well." You're going to make 1,001 excuses not to call. What you need to do, what you need to do is create your own ICE list. Create a group on your contacts and call it 24/7. And then go to those people that you want to be there for first. Those people that if you went to their funeral, you'd say, "Shit, I wish they'd called me." Oh,
Yeah.
bleep.
Hey, you're fine.
Those people, you go to them and you say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I want you to set your list up right now. I'm going to sit with you, and you're going to get your phone out, and we're going to create this group, and please put my contact in that group list. And may I add you? I completely understand if you're not comfortable with that, but could I call you anytime, day or night? Would you accept that call if you're able to talk at that moment?" And then those people are who you put on that contact list on your 24/7 list. So that then when you are depressed, you have no excuse. And it removes the friction of finding those numbers. You
Yeah.
go to your phone list, and they're under the A's and whatever. You'll find group. You've got recent calls and stuff, and then you'll find groups. You click groups, and it'll show you your groups. And 24/7, because it's numbers, will be at the top. And you select that group, and then you just pick who you want to call. Now, Project 24/7 is a nonprofit because a friend had the idea that this needs to be an app. Because once it's an app, All you need to do is tap it, and it's an auto dialer, but it's a specific special kind of auto dialer that has to have prompts so that if they get some kind of voice, if it's an answering machine, it needs to know, oh, I didn't receive a prompt, hang up, call the next number. Also, if you had just stepped out of the shower and it's not a good time to take that call, you need to be able to say decline. And also, it needs to announce who it is, because not everybody has that in their contact list, right? Caller ID might not pop up who it is, and you get this computer voice, can you take a call from Michelle Cleveland?
Yeah.
Right? So, and it's got to have that confirmation, yes, I can take a call now, or no, please keep dialing. And then it's going to have radio buttons for the most popular or most required suicide hotlines. And you can select whichever one or ones you would like it to keep dialing to if your friends aren't available, because they would like to answer, they would like to help. They're just not available at that moment, possibly. Maybe their phone is off for some reason. So that's what we're raising money for project247.org.
Well, listen,
and we just filed with the state of Georgia recently, so we are a real entity.
There you go. Listen, I think it's a great idea. You know, I encourage people all the time. I talk about this all the time. We got to be in community. We got to be in groups. You got to find somebody. Don't isolate yourself. You know, because bad things happen to people that maybe sometimes don't want bad things to, have happen. And, but you know, when we isolate ourselves, sometimes we do stupid things, really is,
well, we don't, that's the biggest thing. You hear so many times, but he was the happiest person, yada, yada.
Right.
It's because they're the best actors. They don't want anybody to worry about them. And that is a big cause of suicide, is they don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
Or they think they've done something wrong that they can't be forgiven. Right?
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to hear, you know.
It is.
You know, you hate to think that somebody decided to make a decision like that because they felt like people didn't care. Because I mean, you and I both know there's a lot of people around that care. And you know, and you already mentioned this, these situations just become incredibly messy, complex, difficult. You know, and
and so that's what I'm doing. I'm traveling around. I've got if anybody wants to follow me, I've got a YouTube channel, Checking Out America, with a CZ, CZECHING, Checking Out America. And I'm doing 3 things on that channel. It's a travel log, so you can see all these kind of cool things that I've been checking out. You can also find any how-tos. If you do get that wild hair to get that motorcycle and hit the road, Mike, there'll be some how-tos on there.
I think my wife may have something to say about that.
She can ride on back.
Oh, yeah.
Or she can get her own. Ooh, there's an idea.
Not happening.
Not happening. Not happening. But anyway. But I've got all those kinds of videos on the YouTube channel. And then those interviews, I'm just popping raw onto TikTok and Instagram. So I'll give you all that information if you want to put those down in the program.
Yeah, absolutely.
If anybody wants to follow me.
Absolutely. We want everybody to reach out to you.
It's been amazing what I've been. Yeah.
So, Michelle, thank you for fighting through our little video. If people don't know, actually, it'll probably be totally fine on the soundtrack, but the video sometimes gets a little wonky. And I think we fought through it as best we can. But yeah, so we fought through it. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate you being on to talk about this, because I just think it's so important. I know there's a lot of people out there that go through something similar, or have a family, or have lost somebody, and you know, we want them to be able to find hope and know that there's, you know, that they can keep on living, and do it in the memory of the person that maybe they lost. So thank you so much for coming on and being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Remember, where there's life, there's hope.
There you go. We will end with that. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate you being on.
My pleasure, Mike. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.